Arches National Park is one of the most recognizable destinations in the U.S. This park is a wonderland of sandstone arches that are surrounded by gorgeous scenery. Seasons bring different challenges, large crowds and limited parking can be frustrating, plus there's the pesky issue of timed entry reservations. It can be a lot. So in this episode, I'm going to answer these questions, so you can start planning an amazing trip to Arches National Park. Arches National Park was established in 1971, but it's been a part of the national park system since 1929. Arches National Park averages 1.5 million visitors per year. People come from around the world to see the park's impressive collection of sandstone arches that range from pothole arches to freestanding arches, and some of them are massive. I'll give you a little more information about specific arches later in this episode, but first you'll need to figure out when you want to visit. Arches National Park is beautiful no matter the time of year, but each season offers different challenges. Winter is cold and windy. You might find some ice on the trail, so if you're hiking, you should pack microspikes just in case. The snow-capped arches are a nice touch, and the foliage doesn't change a ton in this park from season to season, so you're not missing much there. You will have to deal with short days in the winter, so your time might be limited, but you won't have to waste a lot of time looking for parking or fighting crowds, which is always a big plus. Surprisingly, crowds also tend to thin out in the summer. Make no mistake, there will be crowds, they just won't be at their peak. This is mainly due to the heat. Moab gets toasty in the summer. Hundreds of visitors have to be rescued on these trails each year, and many of these rescues are due to heat exhaustion or dehydration. There are only 2 places to get water in the park, so you have to plan ahead. So make sure you're prepared properly with sun protection, proper footwear, water, and snacks. And don't hike during the hottest hours of the day. If you can do that, summer can be very enjoyable at Arches. Without a doubt, spring and fall are the busiest time of year, mainly because of the weather. Temperatures are much cooler in spring and fall, but you will have to deal with crowds. And I mean, you'll really have to deal with crowds. Crowds are big from April to early June, and late August through October. Parking is also a nightmare. I'll give you a couple strategies to deal with these issues later in this episode, but just be aware that it can be rough. Of course, since crowds are so big, the park implemented a timed entry system, so you'll have to get a timed entry reservation in the spring and fall if you want to enter during peak hours, but I'll explain that in detail in a few minutes. Once you figure out when to visit, you'll also need to find a place to stay, and there are a lot of good options. If you're a camper, Arches has a beautiful campground on the north end of the park. The Devil's Garden Campground has 49 sites, and this is a great option if you want convenient access to landmarks in the park. Camping reservations will also get you around the timed entry requirements, which is an added bonus. Moving outside of the park, Moab has tons of BLM campgrounds along the Colorado River. Highway 128 and Potash Road are just minutes from the Arches entrance. These campgrounds can accommodate RVs and tents. Most of them have water but no electric, and they operate on a first-come, first-served basis, so the good sites go quickly. Still, it's a convenient option, and these sites are relatively cheap. If you're looking for accommodations that are a little less primitive, then Moab has you covered. Moab has tons of hotels, lodges, Airbnbs, and RV parks. Prices can be a little steep, especially in the peak season, but most of these accommodations are just minutes from the park, so you're really paying for convenience. Next, you'll need to figure out how much time you want to spend in Arches. This really just depends on what you want to do. Most people want to see the windows, delicate arch, and landscape arch. Most people can do this in a single day, but Arches has so much more to see. Balanced Rock, Klondike Bluffs, and Park Avenue are all worth visiting. Plus, there are tons of little stops in between. If you really want to explore the park, you can do it all in 3 or 4 days. It really just depends on what you want to see. The problem is that most people don't even know what Arches has to offer. We stayed in Moab for a month and explored Arches thoroughly. Then we made an in-depth, published quality travel guide to help people like you plan a trip to Arches. It even has detailed itineraries to help you save time while you're planning. If you're interested, the Arches travel guide is linked below this video. Once you have your lodging in order, there are a few things you'll need to consider before visiting Arches. First, there is practically no cell service in Arches, so you'll need to download your maps before you get to the park. Then you can enjoy a little quiet time away from technology. Next, there is one big rule in Arches National Park. Don't mess with the arches. These arches are constantly fighting gravity and erosion, and at some point in the future, these arches will fall. Walking on them, jumping on them, or hanging on them just makes it happen quicker. If you're visiting in the spring or fall, the weather conditions can change quickly, so it's always good to have an extra layer of clothing with you. Of course, this is a national park, so pets are welcome at Arches. They just aren't allowed on any trails, they aren't allowed at any overlooks, they're only allowed in parking lots, the campground, and along the road, so consider that before you bring them to the park. This should go without saying, but you'll probably be doing some hiking in Arches, so prepare properly with good hiking footwear, sun protection, water, and snacks. Even if you're just doing a short trail, this will make the entire experience better. And of course, depending on the time of year, you'll need to snag a timed entry reservation. Arches National Park isn't big. It's about half the size of Zion. There is one main road that goes through the park, with a few small spur roads that lead to landmarks like Delicate Arch and the Windows. These are all single-lane roads, and the parking lots aren't big either. As you can imagine, this can cause a lot of issues during peak season, so the park implemented a timed entry system to keep from overcrowding. Keep in mind the dates change a little from year to year, but this is everything you need to know. First, timed entry reservations are available through rec.gov and the rec.gov app. Each reservation costs $2, and you will still have to pay the park admission fee. Also, there are two types of reservations: advanced reservations and day before reservations. Advanced reservations are normally released a few months before the reservation date, but the release schedule is a bit sporadic, so you'll just have to keep an eye on it. During peak season, the park also releases timed entry reservations at 7 p.m. Mountain Time the night before the reservation date, so if you don't get an advanced reservation, you'll still get another chance. These go quickly, so you'll need to be in the app or online right when they're released. When you book a reservation, you'll have to pick a time slot. Timed entry lasts from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. each day, and reservations are available for each hour on the hour, so 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., you get the point. Time slots for the morning go quickly, so you'll need to act fast if you want to get one. So what do you do if you didn't get a timed entry reservation? Well, you still have a couple options. First off, if you have another reservation in the park, then you can still enter. This goes for campground reservations and fiery furnace permits. But you can also just enter the park before or after timed entry. If you enter the park before 7 a.m., you can stay as long as you like. Honestly, we did this more often than not while we were visiting. This let us enjoy golden hour, and the crowds were a lot smaller. Let me be clear, the crowds were smaller, but they were not small by any means. One quick point: if you want to avoid crowds, get to the park early or arrive late. But there is one lesson we learned the hard way. Don't try to go through the gate until after 5 p.m. during timed entry season. Timed entry technically ends at 4 p.m., but the park still operates the admission gates until 5 p.m. This means you'll have to wait for people to pay and ask questions, but the line is also extra long because timed entry just ended, so everyone is rushing the entrance. Although if you wait until after 5, admission is not required, and everyone can just drive through the gate without stopping, so the line disappears within minutes. Once you've got all of that taken care of, there's only one thing left to do. You have to go see the actual park. And I like to split the park into a few different sections. These are not official districts by any means, but it makes it a little easier to understand the layout. Naturally, the first stop is the entrance and the visitor center. This is a good place to fill up on water before entering the park. You'll need it, and water is tough to find once you get in there. The visitor center is also the only place to get souvenirs, snacks, and drinks in the entire park. It also has a great education center where you can learn about the park's history, geology, and wildlife. The Arches Visitor Center opens between 7:30 a.m. and 9 a.m. depending on the time of year, so if you're sneaking in before timed entry, you'll probably want to stop later in the day. I like to call the next section of Arches the Monoliths and Overlooks section. This area stretches from Park Avenue to Balanced Rock, and it's probably the most scenic section of the drive. You'll pass massive formations like the courthouse towers and the Tower of Babel. There are hidden trails like Ring Arch and the Eye of the Whale, plus the La Salle Mountains create a gorgeous backdrop to the south. Try to drive through this area during sunrise or sunset because it is spectacular. Once you pass Balanced Rock, you'll reach a junction. If you turn to the right, the road will lead you to the windows. This is one of the most popular areas in Arches. Here you'll find several arches including the north window, the south window, and turret arch. All of these arches are gorgeous, and the north window is one of the best places to watch sunrise in the park. There are also a lot of other hidden arches in this area, and it was a lot of fun finding them. But my favorite arch in this section is Double Arch. This arch will make you feel tiny. It's massive and beautiful. The thing that makes this section even better is that most of these arches don't even require much of a hike, except for the hidden ones. A couple of those were rough. If you continue straight at Balanced Rock, the road will take you further into the park, and you'll reach another spur road that leads to Delicate Arch. This is the most iconic stop in Arches National Park. Let me warn you, parking is rough if you don't get here early. I mean, people were yelling and honking at each other type of rough. National parks can really bring the worst out in a lot of people, but nobody likes waiting in line. There are a couple viewpoints where you can see Delicate Arch from a distance, but these viewpoints leave most people wanting more, so most people end up hiking the trail to Delicate Arch. The trail isn't easy by any means, but the final view is worth the struggle. I can say that I have enjoyed sunrises and sunsets at Delicate Arch, and I don't have a preference. Both were beautiful, although my best photographs came in the morning, so take that for what it's worth. The next section of arches is the Klondike Bluffs. Most people have never heard of this area, and when I visited in peak season, I only saw 2 other people. It was quiet and peaceful, but it was also hot, and there was no shade. This area has one main trail that climbs through the bluffs and passes a few landmarks. The most notable landmarks are the Marching Men and Tower Arch. Keep in mind the path to Klondike Bluffs goes through a dirt road. The road is normally in good condition, but rain can make it impassable, so check conditions before heading out. The northernmost section of Arches is the Devil's Garden. This area has a campground, a picnic area, and a few trails. You'll find arches like Sand Dune Arch and Skyline Arch, but the most notable arches sit along the Devil's Garden Trail. This trail passes several arches including Double O Arch and Landscape Arch, which is the longest arch in the park. The entire trail is 8 miles long, but the hike to Landscape Arch and back is only 2 miles, and there's not a lot of elevation gain. My favorite section of Arches National Park is the Fiery Furnace. The Fiery Furnace is a twisting catacomb of slots and massive sandstone formations. There are hidden arches and narrow passages. In my opinion, this is the best hike in the entire park. But you will need a permit, and it's a little bit of a process to get one. Luckily, I made a full walkthrough for the Fiery Furnace, and you can watch it right here.